Gsluke, here for a little bit of a different video. This time we've got an NBA DFS preview. It was one of the first things that I covered on this channel. It was first golf, then it was NBA. But as football came around, as I got more and more into golf, kind of went away from that. It's still something that I play every single day myself. It's actually my most profitable sport in terms of DFS. I have wins of over 100K to first, 50K to first, 25K. Essentially, most of my bankroll has been made on NBA, so kind of surprising that I haven't put out content earlier for this, but again, now that our schedule is a little bit more open this week with no golf tournament, definitely going to be giving it my best go. So it might look a little bit rough here at first. The content's definitely not going to be as polished as some of my other stuff. Graphics aren't really made, that kind of thing, but the information I can assure you is going to be just as good as our other stuff. So let's hop right into it. These are going to be my top 6 picks for tonight for Tuesday's main slate. All right, so on the screen here, you guys can see the Draftkings poll. Over here on the right are going to be the top 6 picks that I'm pointing out for this slate. So let's start off with the Detroit guys we have on there: Corey Joseph, Hamad Diallo, and Trey Lyles. There's obviously a bit of an opening on that team with the whole Isaiah Stewart situation. He is going to be suspended for 2 games. We also have Killian Hayes, who's already been marked as out. A few other guys on that team are also questionable, so it could be quite a few minutes opened up for that Pistons team. So with Killian Hayes out, we do expect Corey Joseph to get the starting minutes, probably between 28 to 32 actual minutes in game. And while he's not the best point per minute producer, right around 0.7 fantasy points per minute, that's enough at that kind of a price tag, right? He's only $3,900. He's going to play close to 30 minutes, going to hit value more often than not. So really like him over there in cash. He's going to give you a relatively high floor. And in GPPs, he does give you a bit of a ceiling as well. Another option on that team I really like going to would be Hamad Diallo, somebody who plays the small forward position for the Pistons, but also can be utilized at shooting guard, also plays a little bit of point as well, isn't afraid of going out and being a usage hog as well. I like his upside. He's more of a scoring player. He's going to go out there, get you assists, rebounds, essentially contribute across the board, even with some of his defensive stats. And while we haven't seen him play a ton of minutes to this point of the year, he hasn't had this quite minutes open up. He hasn't had this kind of situation in terms of injury. So I really like going to him, especially if they end up getting blown out by the Heat. Diallo would be somebody who gets even more time in garbage time. Trey Lyles is expected to start, likely to take the place of Isaiah Stewart in the starting lineup. So I like going to him. He's only $3,000, likely to play at least 24 minutes. Even if he doesn't get the start, I do expect him to be a key player coming off the bench. And the best part about Trey Lyles is he gives you real scoring upside. When he's on his game, he averages well over 1.1 fantasy points per minute. So if he only gets those 24 minutes, that's still more than enough opportunity to go out and smash at that price tag. So Trey Lyles, actually my number 1 play on this slate. I have him projected for 7.5x as of right now, right around 23 fantasy points. And I don't think you can go wrong there at all, especially if he ends up being in the starting lineup. Then he's going to be extremely chalky, so we're going to have to watch out for that. He could be upwards of 50% owned on this 4-game slate, but it might be warranted. I mean, the guy is that kind of production. He has a lot of upside in terms of fantasy points per minute, which is the opposite of a Corey Joseph, right? We know Joseph is going to get the minutes. We know there's safety there. The unfortunate part is he's not a very good fantasy producer. So it's really trying to pick your poison there. I'll probably have both of them in a majority of my lineups tonight, particularly if they both end up starting. Let's move on to another situation. The other end of that whole Isaiah Stewart debacle with LeBron James. He is suspended for 1 game, so Talen Horton-Tucker is going to start. He actually ended up starting when LeBron James was back anyways last game, ended up getting a huge amount of minutes. But the thing here with THT is that when LeBron's off the court, and we might have Anthony Davis out tonight as well, THT becomes a usage hog, becomes a 25 to 30% usage player, somebody who's expected to go out and score at least 20 points. And at nearly $6,000, only $5,900, that would be more than enough right there. He's going to give you some peripherals in terms of steals and blocks. He's definitely not afraid to go out and get some rebounds. I mean, you've seen a huge uptick this year in his assist percentage as well. So overall, Talen Horton-Tucker, even with LeBron James in, you could argue that he's underpriced in this situation, but with LeBron James out, all of his usage numbers go up, all of his per minute numbers go up with LeBron off of the floor, and significantly so. He averages right around 1.25 fantasy points per minute, and if we're expecting him to play 32 minutes tonight, that's right around a 40-point projection in an absolute smash spot at $6,000. This guy right now I've projected for 6.5x with the ceiling upwards of 8 or even 9x at his salary. Next up, let's talk about Nerlens Noel. Also somebody who has a little bit of an injury situation. We have Mitchell Robinson, who's going to be out. As a result, Noel likely to start here. And he's somebody who's obviously good in fantasy points per minute. If you take a look at him, averages over 1 fantasy point every minute that he's out there. And while he's not somebody who's going to give you 34 minutes, he could definitely go out there for 27, 28 minutes tonight. It's smash at $4,200. So as of right now, my second highest projected center in terms of fantasy points per minute. We'll get to the number one guy here next. Actually, no, he's number one in fantasy points per minute. Our number one play, though, is just a much higher ceiling projection in terms of raw points. But in terms of points per dollar, Noel is number one at this position. Projects for right around 7x value. Can't go wrong there. This is also expected to be a relatively high-scoring game between the Knicks and the Lakers. Has the highest over-under on this 4-game slate, which is always good to target when we have these big men. Anytime we have these higher over-under games, it's usually because we expect more shots to be put up. And more shots being put up means more shots are going to be missed, which means more rebounds for our big guys. So those are usually situations that I'm trying to target, either some of the scoring guards in those high total games or some of the big men that can gobble up those rebounds. But like I said, our number one pick is Nikola Jokic. He's still questionable as of right now. I expect him to play. He's dealing with a wrist injury, and when Jokic has been on the court this year, he has been by far the best fantasy player in the world, averaging 1.89 fantasy points per minute. Last time out when he returned from injury, he was dealing with a knee injury then and played 36 minutes the day after. So if he's dealing with just a measly wrist injury and it's on his non-shooting hand, I expect him to come back, probably play his normal allotment of minutes, closer to 36 minutes. And again, at the rates that we've seen for this season, there's essentially not a price tag I wouldn't pay for him. Yesterday with Giannis was a situation where I ended up fading him just because he was more expensive than Jokic is today, and also was in a bad situation. That Orlando game was expected to be a huge blowout. So as a result, I didn't see a need to prioritize using somebody like Giannis. But in this game between Denver and Portland, which is one expected to be extremely competitive, but two, also a very high pace spot. I mean, Portland puts up a ton of shots. Same thing with Denver. They love to move the ball down the court. This is going to be an absolute smash spot. So obviously, it really depends on the matchups when you're looking at these stud options, because really 55 points isn't enough. You need closer to 65 to 70 fantasy points for somebody at this price tag to pay off. And I definitely think Jokic has that within his range of outcomes. In fact, I have him projected right now for 64 fantasy points. So really like him in this instance. Obviously, with all the value that we've already talked about, whether it's from the Pistons, THT is also a relatively good value at $5,900, or Nerlens Noel, you have plenty of opportunity to fit him into lineups. In fact, if we take a look at this lineup over here on the right, we still have $9,000 remaining per player. So if we wanted to go ahead and take a really nice guard option here, we could try to fit in Lillard, or try and take somebody on the other side of that Denver game. Then we still have $8,500 remaining for our power forward. I mean, obviously Luka not expected to play. We could put in somebody like a Kristaps Porzingis. Boom, there we have a great lineup, right? Obviously, if you didn't want to take Lillard and Porzingis, you could swap to another few players, that kind of thing. We don't have to, right? That's why we have that core. We can swap those guys in and out. Take whatever combination you guys like the best. That's all I've got here for the NBA preview. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys. Not trying to go into every player on the pool, just really the guys I'll be using as core plays for tonight. And as always with NBA, injuries could change everything. Here in an hour or two, we could have some stud players rolled out. We get some players rolled in that we weren't expecting to be playing, and of course could throw it all out of whack. But we expect that the Detroit situation to not change very much. Obviously, we know that LeBron's going to be suspended, and we already know that Mitchell Robinson's not going to play. So I expect pretty much no matter the news, these guys to all be relatively good plays tonight. But make sure you watch out for the injury news for even better value plays that might open up. But let me know down in the comments who you guys have as your favorite play tonight. If I had to pick one, obviously it'd be Nikola Jokic. If we're talking salary relief, definitely Nerlens Noel. But let me know in the comments who you guys have. And as always, I appreciate all the support on the channel, especially because this is a new type of video. This is an NBA video. Not sure if any of you out there play NBA DFS. Hopefully you do. But make sure to leave a like if you guys enjoyed this type of content and you want to see more of it in the future. And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of it as well. If you guys aren't already subscribed, like a lot of you already are. That way you guys don't miss when I upload. I upload for golf, I upload for NFL, and now for NBA, I'm going to try and make it a more regular thing. So make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss any of that. Until next time, good luck with all of your lineups for tonight, and peace.